And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for my computer's not working, so I'm on my phone.
There will be a week at some point where Greg starts the show, and that means it's time for the Greg Sherry Show. We'll get back to that at some point, I'm sure.
I don't know when the last time I did a normal, straightforward intro was.
Well, that's because between tech issues and awesome guests, we haven't needed to. So, you know.
That's fair. And speaking of awesome guests, we got an awesome guest today. Obviously, Big Baller G is here. He's been on the show before. But joining us for the first time on this program, because he's been on Jack of All Trades before, it's Muscle Man Malcolm is on the show. Welcome, sir.
Hello. How are you guys?
Doing good. We'll obviously get to your match this coming August against AJ Francis in just a little bit. But, you know, you've done a lot of great content work, interviewing a ton of wrestlers. You've been on national TV, I believe, as well. You know, how did you get your start doing stuff like this? And you're obviously becoming a bigger and bigger deal in space.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the compliment. I really got into like wrestling YouTube the same way probably anyone else did. Just started a YouTube channel because I just love pro wrestling. I started when I was 12. That kind of like slowly took off a little bit. It really kind of blew up a little bit more during the pandemic. I started interviewing a lot of pro wrestlers. Luckily, had some great friends and just connections within the space. One of the first interviews I had that kind of blew up a little bit was with Roxy, now Roxanne Perez, Leo Rush as well, and those kind of names, Chris Bay as well. Just kind of helped elevate my channel to the point that I can talk to these guys in the WWE, in the AEW, MLW, NWA, etc. Now I'm at this point where now I'm going to actually wrestle a really big bitch called AJ Francis on August 24th. Battle Club Pro. Jobber Slam 4. I'm going to slap the shit out of him. But, you know.
Dollar. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, no, screw him. Absolutely. He sucks. But we'll talk about that later, probably.
Tremendous.
Now, obviously, bringing up AJ Francis, the reigning, as of right now, TNA Digital Media Champion. You know, I watched the interview clip of him slapping you across the face. I mean, it seemed very uncalled for on his part. I know he's probably got a big head, being that he's a champion now. But you know, how are you going to combat that? And how have you been training for this match coming up?
Yeah, honestly, it really was uncalled for. I mean, AJ and I, we've been friends for a while, so I feel like a joke comment of saying flop dollar really wasn't that deep, especially between two guys that have so much history together. But yeah, he ended up slapping me in the face. It hurt a lot. Lost hearing in my ear for a couple of days. That was not enjoyable at all. But now it led to this match. I was luckily made some phone calls, had some cool people in the industry that have some connections to promotions and whatnot, and we got it set up. He charged a big fee for his match, of course, for his appearance, because he wants top dollar, even though no one cares about him. But it's okay. It's gonna happen on August 24th. As far as training and whatnot, I have been doing some wrestling training. I will be training with a pretty prestigious school coming up very soon. I don't want to drop the name just yet, but I've been working with some independent wrestlers as well. And overall, my background in training and combat, I've been boxing for about a year now. So best believe on August 24th against AJ Francis, I'm going to punch that motherfucker in the mouth. And it's going to hurt a bunch. So, we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it.
I think the key at this point is to just make sure you've got a spray like cologne, but it's Cheez-It flavored, and it completely weakens his very being. That's the key to beating AJ Francis. That and being Joe Hendry, who is getting more exposure now than he did, than AJ Francis ever did. So good on Joe for that.
Great on him, honestly. I mean, like to give AJ, I will give AJ this credit though. I mean, like Joe Hendry, who's very talented and deserves exactly what he's doing. He's been doing the same gimmick for a while, and when he had that feud with AJ Francis, that really what blew him up to the point that he is today. That he's trending on TikTok and everything whatnot. So I give AJ a lot of credit for helping Joe get to that point where he is right now, because I think with Joe's talent on top of AJ's like ability to just not like him, and I personally understand why people don't like him. It really did help elevate Joe Hendry to this point. So honestly, like shout out AJ for that and that only.
That's it. That's what you get credit for, is for making Joe Hendry. Everybody believe in Joe Hendry, AJ. So good job on that. Very good.
Well, I was going to say not everybody, because we had Courtney on the show a couple weeks ago, and she's still very solidly not believing, and she's actually a fan of AJ Francis. So
she is vehemently against Joe. She was all up in her shit about it last night watching NXT. So she was not a happy camper. But what are you gonna do?
Oh man.
So this is your first match in a promotion. Did you do any backyard wrestling when you were growing up, or is this the first time you're actually gonna step into it?
So I did some YouTube wrestling, I guess. I wrestled another YouTuber back in the day. Do you know who Grimm's Toy Show is? He's a pretty
I
wrestled him before. That went well. He only kicked me in the mouth. So, have a great record so far. So this will be a big step up, to say the least. Nothing against Grimm, great guy, but AJ Francis is a current champion in TNA, one of the top 3 companies in the world. So this will be a big challenge, a big step up. But as far as outside of it, I did wrestle in high school. I wrestled a little bit in college. And I'm also a world-ranked powerlifter. So, I got some accolades behind me that put me, maybe still as the underdog against a guy like AJ Francis, but I'm definitely not counted out. So
we got to get a gorilla press during the match.
Oh, I'm going to slam him for sure. He's getting picked up. I'm picking him up. Easy.
I'll tell you what, people with an athletic background seem to pick up pro wrestling a little bit more. I'm not much of an athlete, and I've gone through the wrestling training a little bit. It's been 10 years since I've been in a ring, which is hard for me to say. But, with your athletic background, and, you mentioned you were an amateur wrestler and a power lifter, that should give you more of an edge, I would think. And you might surprise him a little bit when you face him August 24th.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I feel like AJ thinks that every wrestling creator or wrestling internet personality, they're all built the same. Either you're super out of shape, or you're really skinny and small. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I guess that fit that description to some extent. Not that it matters, because everyone's just in their own lane doing what they're doing. That's content creation. You don't need to be a professional athlete build to be able to do that. But I feel like AJ thinks we all look the same. We all act the same. We're all a bunch of nerds. And maybe the nerd part might be true, but I size up pretty well to AJ Francis. He might be taller than me, but we're not that far off in size. So I think he'll be in it for a rude awakening on August 24th.
I love seeing the growth and the expansion of wrestling since we really got hit with this zombie apocalypse they call the COVID-19 pandemic. And YouTube content creation in professional wrestling has just exponentially expanded, and it leads to stuff like this. And I think that's a great medium. YouTube has been so positively impactful in our lives here in this room, and obviously with you, you're getting to go from being, creating the content that promotes it to being a part of the content that's getting promoted. I think that's a great transition. Very, very few times that gets to happen, prior to 2020 or even prior to YouTube, which was longer ago than I want to admit right friggin' now, because I've been doing this shit for 20 years. So more than 20 now. I just think it's great that we have a way to incorporate our social media and incorporate our streaming presentations into the overall business. I think it's been a huge benefit across the board.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, there's a few guys right now, and I think we're starting to see that transition where guys go from like content creators and whatnot to like more on-screen personalities to actual athletes in the ring. I mean, a guy like Simon Miller, who's doing great stuff in the UK. I think he's going to be wrestling in America more often now. Even Chris Danger, he's been doing great in DPW. Then he recently debuted in MLW, so like shout out him. I know other guys have been training, like a BDE has been training, and he's obviously a massive creator in the space. He was on TNA as well. Shout out him. Like there's so many guys and girls that are now moving from like just being creators into like actual personalities within the industry. So it's exciting to see, because like now companies are starting to notice that like these creators and whatnot, regardless of the size of their content or the size of them per se, like there's a way for everyone to be involved in the industry in a really impactful way. And like there's a few of us that are actually breaking those bounds. That way other people can do it as well. So like all the guys I just mentioned, I mean, shout out them, shout out everyone else that's also putting in the same work, that's training, that's putting the work on the media side. Like it's a hard industry to break into because there's not a whole lot of opportunity, and wrestling doesn't owe you anything. But the fact that people are breaking through it's incredible, honestly.
I have a perfect transition for this because I was going to ask you this. Having done media for events and whatnot, I'm hoping to have the opportunity to do media at SummerSlam in Cleveland in August, because I'm only about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Cleveland, so we're making the trip. And I was wondering if you had any tips, first of all, on how to apply, because I know you can apply like on the career, or not the career, but the corporate website to get the press credentials and whatever. But what are your tips for like presentation and like talking to the actual wrestlers that you're interviewing?
Yeah, so as far as like applying and whatnot, there's like a Google form that goes out. You can honestly probably just reach out to someone that has a form if it's not sent to you, if you're not on like that media list communication email or whatever. Just have someone send it to you, and they'll hopefully they're nice enough to do it. But as far as like actually performing inside like media day itself, media row, you just gotta show up early, get your camera set up, make sure you're not in anyone's way, because everyone's fighting for those spots to be in that room. Everyone that's in the room deserves it too. So you gotta just make sure your presence is felt, and when the wrestlers come around, just make sure you use those 3 to 5 minutes if you have that. If it's less, if it's more, great. To just get the questions that you find the most interesting. I think the best thing to always ask, I mean, you can always look at a guy like Chris Van Vliet, who does great work, is to ask really evergreen questions. I mean, evergreen questions will last way longer than just talking about the pay-per-view or PLE that's coming up in the next day or two after you do the interview, or talking about that match that's going to happen after, 48 hours after you talk to the superstar. So finding stuff that happened in their career and just talking about that might work to your benefit, especially you're a smaller creator trying to make yourself known in this space. An example is, luckily at WrestleMania, I had a chance to talk to Rey Mysterio. It was only like 2 or 3 minutes, but I was able to get enough questions in to talk about stuff that happened like 2010. In order that way, when people go back and watch it, it's like it's not just talking about the 6-man tag that people really don't remember that happened at WrestleMania, but it's like, oh yeah, that storyline you did with CM Punk back in 2010, I remember that. So that's easy to talk about. It's easy to view even today.
One of my favorite things to watch right now is Denise Salcedo asking the people, "Never have I ever." That is one of my favorite. Like, and Denise is a friend of the channel. We love Denise here, and it just she just comes off so friendly and real, and she draws that realness out of the talent. Like watching her and Chelsea do that, it was hysterical to watch, because Chelsea's got nothing left. It was hysterical, and she just. I've noticed Denise, since she worked with X-Pac back in however long ago that was, she's always had that in her, and it's great to see that expression come out of her now. But yeah, you mentioned Chris Van Vliet, another favorite of this channel, at least Greg's channel.
Yeah.
I love Greg. I love Chris. I love Greg too, obviously, or I wouldn't be sitting next to him. But I just think there's so many more positive people out there now than there were certainly when I got started, when, back in the Stone Age, and back when, this brand was created. But I'm loving that there's so many more positive people out there than there ever used to be. It's great to see.
Yeah, man. And like, especially with like Chris and Denise, like they're also very willing to give information. Like I talked to Chris yesterday about something like related with content and whatnot. And like, he's in the middle of like promoting his like interview with The Undertaker. Like dude's doing big things.
Yeah.
He goes out his way to tell me whatever I need to know. He's willing to critique anything that I need, that I ask him for. Denise as well. I mean, she's very exactly how you see on camera is how she is in person.
Yes.
Extremely nice.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing about a lot of people that are in that space. So Sean Ross Sapp is a great guy to talk to. Like most of these guys are like very genuine and willing to give information if you're someone that's also willing to put in that same work that they're putting in as well. So, I mean, honestly, as long as you're putting the work, everyone that's at the top will definitely leave a helping hand for people that are trying to like actually make it. So shout out those guys for sure.
It's amazing how much the golden rule actually works.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
Circling back a little bit to content creators being a part of wrestling, you mentioned BDE, and Sean Ross Sapp also has been working a few matches in the Indies. Like he came back in GCW a couple years ago. He had that match against Johnson McKenzie. He's been at a couple battle royals since for charity. Has he given you any advice on what it's like to step in the ring? Because he's been in a couple different kinds of matches.
Yes.
So he's got a little bit of that experience.
Yeah, I forgot to mention
he's
Sean.
a pretty man.
Yeah, no, he's an insane dude. I love the guy for sure, man. But no, I haven't really talked to Sean about like actually doing the match or whatnot. But I mean, anytime I ever like message Sean about literally anything, he's always very quick to respond and very detailed in his responses too. So I'm sure if I reached out tomorrow, he would answer very quickly. Yeah, no, I forgot about Sean. He has done a lot of stuff as well. Like shout out Sean, he's great. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I totally lost. Oh, you mentioned Chris. I loved it. I don't remember which one got posted first. I loved that Undertaker and his co-host reached out and brought Chris on as a guest. Chris was totally befuddled by that. Like he couldn't like understand how that space became a thing. I just think it's great, but he brings out the best in people. Everybody, like I said, I know. I guess I'm shocked more than anything else because I've been doing this for so long that there are so many more positive people when all I ever hear about, the IWC is this, it's negative. And it's like, you guys just are looking for what you want to see. You guys are you're not seeing the overall scope of it. And like I said, I am so privileged to have positive people in here whenever I'm on Greg's shows, whenever I get to do my content. It's very refreshing in my old age to have people around me that are positive influences and positive creators. It's great. But anyway, I'm rambling. Greg, go ahead. It's your show.
No, to even like comment on that as well. It's like, no, you're right. I mean, there's so many like great people in this like space and whatnot, from creators to wrestlers to just anything across the map. Like, yes, there are some jerks. Like, let's not get twisted. I can sit here and give you a list of people that are like, but like, there's no point in doing that because there's also so many more like just great people that are willing to help. That like, those are the guys you got to highlight. Like everyone I just mentioned before that we're talking about. Like all those people deserve to be a part of this conversation, not just because of the work that they put in, but like the person they are behind the scenes as well. And that's like what I strive to look or to be, because like the way they treat people outside of when the camera's rolling is very impactful. It helps out a lot of people, and I mean that's my goals, because I know eventually, I mean I'm a little younger than them. You feel so like eventually they're gonna have their time. It's gonna be more my time, so I'm trying to make sure whenever it's my time to step up to those positions as well, that I'm leading the same like path that they left for me as well. So I mean, it's the goal just to hand back to what you get in wrestling.
You're definitely one of the younger people in this room. I'll tell you that much. So time is on your side right now. I don't know how much it is for you.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Being a former joke contestant, what's your reaction to next Thursday, Maven Huffman coming into the space and challenging for that championship?
Oh, Maven. Yo, I love Maven. I only got a chance to talk to him once for a few minutes, but he was a great guy. Yo, I'm excited to watch that. I'm going to tune in for sure, because, like, Maven's a good dude. He's been doing some great content as well. Shout out Maven.
Oh, yeah.
He has a second life now, I swear. It's crazy.
Yeah, like there's the wrestling side of Maven, and now there's the YouTuber side of Maven. And like it's so cool to see them like kind of combine, you know.
Speaking of other content creators,
yeah,
who were some of the content creators that got you into wanting to do this? Because you said you started at 12 years old, so
yeah,
there had to be someone that, you know, inspired you to start a channel. Like you saw that. Who was your inspirations?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like there was a guy back in the day, and he does more stuff on Instagram now than YouTube, but DGDX Animation. He does a lot of stuff like wrestling figures. So when I originally started my channel, it was like a wrestling stop motion channel that I realized takes way too much time. I don't have the time or mental ability to sit there and move the figure like arm by arm, punch by punch. Like I can't do that. But he was the reason I definitely started my YouTube channel, and then just seeing just other creators over time like do well. And just seeing the kind of content they're making. I can't like think of too many names besides him because I was really inspired by a lot of different people. But honestly, I feel like Zack Ryder is probably a big one as well. Like the True Long Island Story was a great like YouTube channel, and like I hate the fact that it wasn't incorporated more into his character and his run back in like 2011. But man, I could like list people off for days. But those are the big two that come to mind this second of who actually like inspired me to do it.
Cardona is the best example of don't give up on what you know works, man. In and out of WWE, that guy is still going. Matt, as much as he cost me my hair, what was left of it back at WrestleMania in 2016, damn him all the hell, I am just so ever impressed with him and his continued evolution in his own life and in wrestling. He's just one of my favorite people. I love it.
He's one of those guys that deserves every ounce of
hell yes.
Getting. Like the dude's making a lot of money on the indies, and you love to see it, bro. Like and he's quick to brag about it too because he deserves to brag about it.
Hell yeah,
he's earned all of the money he's making. So congrats to him, man. He's a great guy.
It is one of my biggest bothers that he did not get a longer run as the NWA champion because of the injury. That was like, oh, that could have been so much fun. Oh my God.
I loved it. I loved it so much. I'm a big NWA guy too, so like, I love seeing Matt Cardona down there. So he was doing great stuff. I hope he can win the title back soon whenever he comes back from this injury.
G, do you have a question?
I had a couple things. So Malcolm, I've actually bumped into you a couple times bumped into you at Celebfest 2 back in a while, and then Fan Jam just recently down in MCW. I don't know if you walked around, but I helped my buddy out with Parker Kane Promotions. You've probably seen him around a while. I had two questions, or not really two questions, but what's been your best and worst interview since you've been around a while, or have you had a bad interview? I should say.
No, it's a fair question to ask. I've definitely had some that I just didn't upload.
Right.
Yeah, like if it's bad,
I think we all have content like that.
Yeah, I'm like, no, if it's bad, it's not seen the light of day, and it's never the talent's fault. It's literally mine.
right.
But no, like I feel like best interview. I would say with Zilla Fatu. I love that guy. Great dude. Talk to him a good amount. The stuff he's doing on the indies is crazy, and I'm excited to see him take that next step whenever he's ready and he gets signed to go to WWE. Him and Jacob Fatu, those two interviews kind of blew up my channel even more because I've interviewed Jacob like 5 times now, and he's like the loveliest human being ever for one of the most scariest looking people.
Right.
He's so scary looking. He looks like he could kill me any second, but like he's the nicest person ever. I will always be a Jacob Fatu and Zilla Fatu supporter. They're absolutely great. Really, anyone in that family is great. I interviewed Solo. He was fantastic. I interviewed Lance on Hawaii. He's fantastic. I'm doing a documentary right now on Lance on Hawaii and traveling with him on the road. It's an adventure in itself. But anyone from that family, I'd probably say is my favorite. Least, I'm not going to say their name. I'm trying to think who it is first. I have a couple I never uploaded. I had some guys that work for certain companies that I was like, I just don't think we matched well on our energy. Like I feel like I brought a lot of energy, and then I'm not even going to give a pronoun. They didn't give the energy back, and it was like kind of awkward. I was really hyped, and then they were like really like mellow, and I tried to like get more hype to bring their energy up, and then it just didn't meet. And I was like, I don't know if I should upload this because this is mad cringe.
Is it someone that you expected to have more energy, more like charisma to them? Or
I expected them to be a little a little happier to be there. Not that they had an issue with me. I think they were just like tired or in general from their life of just being on the road. I didn't expect them to be like super energetic, but I expected them to be like just a little more personable, and I just didn't get that. And I don't know if that was maybe me being too extra, or maybe they just were having an off day, because I mean everyone has off days. I like to think it's some combination of both. I think I tried to try too hard with the energy, and it completely threw them off, and they kind of shut down. So it was like, all right, I had this really long-winded and great question that I put together. I had some math in there I put together, and they just gave me like a 2-word response. It was like, ouch. All right.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Math question had to be Scott Steiner. It's all his fault. Kidding. I think that goes back to the idea that especially in the last few years, that everything has to be live. We used to pre-record everything back in the old NoDQ.com days, and there were stuff we did. It's like, yeah, we probably shouldn't upload this one. There's some stuff out there that's not there anymore. It's like we probably shouldn't have uploaded this one. So I totally understand it. Trying to take the Paulie approach.
Yeah.
Accentuate the positives, hide the negatives, and unfortunately, when you're live, it's out there. It is what it is, and so somebody's recording it. So whether you take it down or not, it's out there. Yep. So I wouldn't mind every once in a while having a pre-recorded content if it's good enough to put up there, because it kind of gives you a little bit more of an opportunity to control the narrative, or however you want to phrase it.
Yeah, I'm really bad at like live. Like I'll do like these live interviews and podcasts and stuff, but as far as like on my own, I never do anything live, just because like I'm afraid that I'm gonna say something that I had no business saying, that I would have said to my friend as a joke, but like then it would come off really bad somewhere else. I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything live unless like it's like an interview where I can like lock in and focus on what I'm being asked. Like, nah.
Valid. The valid approach, because I'm of the generation that I'm like the last generation that didn't give about being politically correct. And when I go on other people's shows, I go, yeah, I might want to rethink this answer before you can. It's very hard to govern my to put a governor on my tongue and my brain. They don't always work together properly. So that's why I very rarely do interviews anymore, unless I'm familiar with the person or I've had enough of a conversation before, and it's like, okay, here's how we're gonna go. I'm gonna go see Nikki and Bree's show at the Broken Room next week. I've known them long enough where if we happen to get on video, it's going to be pre-recorded, but at least I know I'll be able to, control the conversation a little bit better. When I first met them and got to know them through their husbands, not so much. But with the benefit of doing this for over 20 years, it's like, okay, what to say, when to say it. When we first started doing the interview shows, what we were doing back then, God, there was stuff that was said in interviews with people like Bobby Heenan and Randy Savage and Dusty Rhodes. You can never put it up now. It just wouldn't. It ages like milk. It really does.
I believe that. It was a different time back then. People had different views and whatnot. Yeah. So 100%. Nowadays maybe not. Maybe don't think that. But.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why this show. We do a live show every Wednesday, and. Right. It's very few and far between that anything not appropriate, I guess I should say.
I'd like to say we know what to say.
We know what to say. I'm surprised in like 4 years we haven't had like anything like damning. So good on us.
Yeah. No, Greg. So for the people that aren't familiar in the room, Greg became a fan of my stuff through our show we did over the period of 2004 to 2006 video-wise, but 2002 audio-wise. Out of 100 video shows, there's only one we can actually put up now that might not get us thrown off YouTube for all time. And even that show focused on my audition for Rocky Horror. So, we had 100 episodes. One ages less like milk than all the other ones.
There might be more than one, but it's not much more than one.
Yeah, not much more than one. There may be clips we can take out of some of those other 99, but it would be a tedious task.
So, Malcolm, when you went to like CellFS and FanJam and the other meet greets, do you know who you're going to talk to? Or because I always saw you walking around, do you just walk up to somebody who's not really busy at the time? Like Maven, because I did watch your interview with Maven. So did you just walk up to him or?
Yeah, I mean, usually I just check who's going to be there beforehand,
Right.
especially before I get in my car and drive there because gas is expensive, and I drive a
Yeah.
car that takes premium, so it's really expensive.
Okay.
So usually I have like a good list of like topics that I want to talk about beforehand. I try to stay as well researched as possible, and usually, yeah, I mean, I just kind of just walk up to them, introduce myself, say who I am, and sometimes they know me, sometimes they don't, and
Yeah.
just ask if I can interview them. And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no.
Yeah, so,
Sometimes they got handlers that don't want that to happen unless they
Yeah.
want money. I'm like, I'm sorry, I got no money for you.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So you run a risk, but eventually it works out because
It works
if you interview
out,
them
yeah.
at the convention, maybe they'll know you when it's time. When if they're in AEW or per se that they're doing a little media tour, they'll remember you. Keep that name on lock, and then hopefully you get to talk to them again. So. Yeah, you just gotta keep it's constant networking and just shaking hands and saying hello and introducing yourself as if they don't know you.
It's funny because Jeff, when I went to Fan Jam and I met Nick and I talked to you about him and I showed him a picture of you and he's like, yeah, he looks kind of familiar. I was like, okay, yeah. So
This is Nick.
Nick Nemeth.
Oh, Nick. Yes. So, sorry. There's a few Nicks I know. Some people I don't want to be associated with, but Nick Nemeth, I'm all about, man. That's our buddy. Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Nick Aldis at first. I was like, wait, Nick, he knows me.
No, Nick Aldis blocked me, and I still don't know why. Have no good idea why. Always praised him. Love his wife to pieces. I don't know what I did to Nick, but
maybe you loved his wife too much, and that's why he blocked you.
Maybe. I mean, you know, I
love Nikki too. She's great, but you know, we got boundaries. We can't.
Yeah, he and Pierce are the reasons why I became re-enamored with the NWA Championship, because when they were champion, because there was nobody better than those two guys as NWA champion. But yeah, it's the networking thing is so key. I made a contact, or I guess a reconnection at the end of the year last year over a cameo request that somebody had sent on my behalf, and I'm missing All In to go reconnect with this person to hopefully bring him into the greater Jeff Meacham multiverse, because I think it's that important that I get this person on the air. So yeah, networking is so key to what we do. And it's people don't understand that, you know, more often than not, it's not just, hey, somebody's on with us. It takes talking and timing and, you know, establishing the rapport, because if you don't have a good, you know, dynamic with somebody, it's going to translate back on the air. So
like, even like you mentioned with Nick Nemeth, like I'm glad he did remember me. That's a big compliment.
That's pretty cool.
If he doesn't know who I am, that's great, because like I went to his comedy show out in Chicago before Survivor Series. So this was right after he got released. It was like right after the big release with all the names. So we recorded a little video talking about this possible match. I've known about this match for a while, guys. It's been in the works for a minute, but just to pull the curtain back a little bit. So I got a cameo with Nick Nemeth, and we're talking mad trash about that boy AJ Francis. So I'm ready to upload that any second now. So that might go up next week. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That jogged a memory that I forgot about. So thank you.
Nick was always great to watch in WWE, but he's been holding back the really good stuff just right about here for about 15 years. So now that he's got the chains off, oh my God, he is gonna do beautiful things. I'm so happy for him and for Ryan. I really am. You know, people kind of labeled Ryan with he's just Dolph's brother. Dude, Ryan Nemeth has talent that nobody got to see in AEW because he's relegated to freaking Dark and Elevation. Those two guys are gonna be a major pair of players here. And I mean, Nick already is, right? But Ryan's going to get the opportunity, and when he does, shit, watch out.
He's a really funny guy too. Like, if they ever do more like comedy shows, like anyone that's watching this, or you guys as well, like, please go watch one of them. Like, I had a real good, like, if you take the wrestling out of it, it was still a really enjoyable show. You put wrestling on top of it, because we're all fans, of course, it makes it even funnier. So like, I would highly suggest going out to their comedy shows, because like, those dudes are actually hilarious. Like, all like wrestling aside, like, they're actually funny people. So like, they're definitely worth going to watch. Yeah,
I met Nick through going to see John Morrison's stand-up routine at a club out here in LA. And Nick and I are sitting there in the audience cracking on him more than anything else. It was just so ridiculous how just witty and quick he is. And now Ryan's the same way. I haven't had a chance to go see their comedy shows yet, but I've had multiple friends have the opportunity to go see him, and they are and Nick's just hysterical, just in person, just bullshitting back and forth. So I can only imagine doing the. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, so you got on stage too? Look at you.
Yeah, Ryan hyped me up, and we did.
Yeah, he is. I have such high hopes, and I'm such a fan of both those brothers. I can't wait to see what they do next.
Shout out Ella J, who left that comment too. She's
yes.
Yeah, she was just on our show last week.
Yeah,
she was on last week during the big announcement. Yeah,
amazing.
It was. So not really circling, but moving away from wrestling for just a second. When you got the call to do like a national TV spot for like your content, what was going through your mind? Because obviously, live news reporting or whatever is completely different than our little bubble here in the wrestling world.
Yeah.
So what was that like? And that's got to be like an adrenaline rush that you're making such a difference that there's a news story dedicated to you.
Yeah, man, I feel like I'm always ready for these kind of moments, honestly. Like I went to school for broadcast journalism. I'm currently in grad school right now for communication and media. So these kind of moments I'm always ready for. So when it happened, it was a shock, of course. Like, I mean, that's not a normal thing to get a phone call to do. Going to the studio and whatnot, they kept asking me if I was nervous. I was like, no, I'm fine. They're like, no, usually people are nervous. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm built for this. I'm built like this. But no, it was a fun time, honestly. Like being on camera is always fun to me. I feel like I'm my best self when I'm on camera. If not, I'm just like hangry all the time and just like a real jerk to be around, to be honest. Like when I'm on camera, I'm great. So like doing that like spot and just talking about powerlifting and talking about wrestling and just telling a little bit about myself to like the greater Washington, D.C. audience, because on Fox 5 D.C. It was cool. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it. Everyone was very nice over at that station, and hopefully they bring me back, because I mean, like, I love the big cameras. So like any camera I could be on, I want to be on it.
Yeah. So
like Fox, if you're watching, hit me up, please. My texts have been kind of dry recently, so I'm just waiting for you guys to call me back.
To keep it away from wrestling for another moment, what are your other hobbies outside of content creation and watching wrestling?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really big into like really just combat sports in general. So I watch a lot of UFC. I'm really into boxing. Yes, I like Jake Paul for the boxing and boxing only. I think the stuff he's doing is fantastic. But yeah, boxing is kind of like my real big passion outside of pro wrestling. Besides that, working out. I'm a really stale person. I say it out loud. This is just boxing, wrestling, and working out. Well, it's kind of like, if I don't have that, I'm not a human being at that point.
What would you say your favorite boxing match of all time is?
Ooh, all time. Ooh, that's hard. I love George Foreman's story of just coming back and like winning the world title again, even though he was like a out of shape old guy. Like just seeing it is great. Right now, like I'm just kind of locked in on any Gervonta Davis fight. Anything he does, I'm locked in for it. That dude's fantastic. Being from DC, he's from Baltimore. It makes it even easier to connect with the guy. I think what he's doing is fantastic. He's great. I was a big Deontay Wilder fan. He's actually still my favorite fighter of all time. I know he just recently got like just knocked out, like
knocked the hell out.
Yeah, he like it's unfortunately over at this point. There's no coming back after that loss. I thought he can come back after the Joseph fight, but it just didn't happen. That dude put him out. I don't know why he was fighting a guy 60 pounds heavier than him anyway, but it'd be what it be. He's a heavyweight. But yeah, Deontay Wilder is probably still my favorite fighter of all time, regardless of how bad the ending might have been. So hopefully he can come back and do one more fight and just get a W and then be done. But I think it's over, unfortunately. Yikes.
Yeah, and we've seen boxers transition into the wrestling world, some good, some bad. Mike Tyson was obviously a very popular one, but also in recent years, Tyson Fury had that match against Braun Strowman, which some people were kind of iffy on. Yeah, and more famously singing with Drew McIntyre after the first clash in the castle. So, I mean, what's your opinion on a guy like Fury?
I mean, I love Tyson Fury. I hope he can bounce back from this loss to Usyk. I think Usyk was just a better man that night. Honestly, he just brought it. He just brought it, and it is what it is. I'm sure it's embarrassing because like Usyk is such a smaller man than Tyson Fury is, because Tyson is a massive dude. He's tall and giant. But yeah, I mean, I hope he can bounce back from it. I know he struggled with a lot of demons and whatnot when he, I think, lost to Klitschko, I think, or he has a point that he went through a dark phase. So hopefully he doesn't go through that again. and he has his rematch coming up in the fall. So I don't necessarily want to see him to win the world title again, but I hope he can just put on a really good performance, and then whatever's next for him is next for him. I don't want to retire though, so hopefully he still stays around. He's got to build your way back up, go back to the bottom of the 15, and just kind of come back up.
The thing with Usyk, he's the undisputed champion now, right? He's got all So it didn't surprise me that he beat Fury. I mean, the size difference is obvious and just blatant. But when you're coming in as one of the champions of the world, and it's an undisputed fight. Anything can happen. Asuka, Buster Douglas.
Yeah,
that's still, even now I look back at that fight, it's like, what the hell was that? So anything can happen in the middle of that ring. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I love the sport. I think it's so cool that, obviously super violent and whatnot, but it's really just a technical game, because you can be the strongest dude, but that doesn't mean anything. It's really just about who's the smartest, honestly. Yeah. Especially dealing with that kind of pressure, getting punched in the face. That's intense to deal with. I've done a little bit of sparring. I'd love to actually have some amateur fights down the line once I'm done with the whole pro wrestling run. But boxing's hard. Getting punched in the face and trying to think about what to do next, it's not as easy as it looks.
No, you mentioned Fury's demons. Look what happened to Ronda Rousey. She went through that entire run, literally got knocked out, and I don't think she's still recovered even now. Even during her whole, she was completely flabbergasted that Holly just caught her upside the head. Had no idea what the hell to do with herself.
She has not accepted that loss yet, honestly. It's still something she just hasn't accepted, and it's really unfortunate, because I was a big Ronda Rousey fan. I actually still like her, but she's clearly just struggling with something, and I'm glad she kind of stepped away from everything just so she can just work on her family and just try to live her happiest life. Because she had her run. She was the baddest woman on the planet, just the baddest athlete on the planet. Take all gender out of it. She was fantastic and did so much for the sports world in general that there's really nothing left for her to prove. She's done everything. There's nothing else she needs to do.
No, she was the reason I got into UFC. I watched it when Brock crossed over. I watched it in the early days in my freaking graphic arts teacher's classroom when we were supposed to be working. This is the old freaking human cockfighting days of UFC. But yeah, Ronda and her ascent really got me into it, because she was just such a phenomenon. But it was unfortunate. I like you said, I'm glad she had the recognition, okay, I need to step away, and then did the WWE thing, good on her, but then realized, okay, I need to not be here. And there is nothing more rewarding, but also more challenging than to be a parent. So good on her for taking up that challenge and realizing that maybe public eye is not good right now.
Yeah, she's focused with her family right now. I'm happy that she has that ability to focus on having a family. So I hope she just kind of stays in that lane right now. And if there is a comeback at one point, hopefully she's just in the right headspace and it goes her way.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I also want to bring up, we've talked about how good people are, or that there are good people in the content creation space. And I've seen you go to shows with some of them, because Marissa, Erica, and Johnny, who have also been on Joe before, you're obviously friends with them as well. How different is it talking to people online versus hanging out with said people in person?
Man, the only difference is a whole lot more drinking. What can you say? But no, guys like Marissa and all of them, they're great. I love all those guys so much. I talk to a lot of these people on these content creators on a daily, hourly basis, weekly, whatever you want to call it. Most of these people just end up being just your actual friends in real life. Seeing some of the people that are doing the things they're doing now, it's just fantastic. I'm sure you guys are all friends because of this podcast. Wrestling really brings people together, man. It's great.
It really does.
The amount of people I've met in this space that I can list off that are just really cool to talk to outside of just talking about pro wrestling stuff. The list is long, and everyone's super cool. I'm happy to be in a part of the space where people can approach me and just talk to me about whatever, and it doesn't always have to be about wrestling. But yeah, man, I rarely run into people on a personal level that are jerks or anything. There's a couple, but it's so small compared. So
yeah, Greg and I became so close that I flew to his house near Erie, Pennsylvania, to watch the Royal Rumble that wasn't even in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
I'll top that, Jeff. I had Greg in my wedding.
Oh,
I had Greg in my wedding.
Valid. Yeah. Again, I couldn't make that one, or I would have. But yeah,
No, you're good.
Yeah.
No,
I flew away
I'm
the
fucking
entirety
with
of
you,
the way
Jeff.
across the country to watch a pay-per-view on television.
yeah. No, I mean, see, look, wrestling brings people together, man.
It does.
You say you're in Erie, Greg. I'm in Westchester. I don't know how close that is.
Well,
You know,
near Erie.
Yeah, I was gonna say my wife has an aunt in Westchester.
It's
So,
a great city. I love it here. I'm at Westchester University right now.
there you go.
Yeah.
It is a small one
And
after all.
wait,
I
hold
wouldn't
on.
want to paint.
Westchester, PA. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
PA, not New York. Not New York.
Okay. My wife actually graduated from Westchester.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
school. I love it here.
It's awesome.
Oh shit! If I knew you're that close, holy shit!
Right? All world, man.
The world gets smaller every day, but I still wouldn't want to paint it. Good grief.
Yeah. I was gonna say Big G, we're so close. He's driving 4.5 hours to get different kinds of condiments dumped on his head
Yeah,
next
exactly
weekend. So
right.
Valid. This is valid.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Wrestling brings people together. It also makes them do weird shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's we can
The show's on this channel.
I mean, yeah. So I think I brought it up before when you were on Jack of All Trades. You know, both of us were on Quizzlemania at one point, and that was a whole different time with the pandemic and everything happening. Do you think that you got like closer to people? Do you think it was a good thing for the space that shows like that existed and brought more people familiarity with people that they might otherwise not have heard of?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Shout out Wrestle Talk for sure. Like for a while, I was a feature writer for Wrestle Talk, so I was talking to a lot of those guys. Not like the Ollie Davis or Luke Owen. Like I would talk to him here and there, but not too often. But like guys like Sat is great. Like I love that.
Oh,
dude.
we love Sat here.
Yeah, no, he's like the coolest dude ever.
He's a beautiful human being. He is a treasure that should be protected at all costs.
That's a sexy
Absolutely.
man. That is a sexy man for sure.
Oh,
For real.
he absolutely is. Like
Oh,
I am as straight as the day is long, but that's a
Same,
good
but
looking
hey,
dude.
man, Savvy making
Sexy man,
cool
yeah.
things, bro. Like I can't.
Love it.
But yeah, man, like Quizzlemania is amazing. Like shows like that, like that are bringing like creators together and whatnot. Like it's great to see, especially during that time of the year or the decade, I guess, with the pandemic.
Yeah.
That was a dark time for a lot of people, so it was
Yeah.
really cool to be a part of it for the few times I was. And yeah, hopefully I come back one day. Maybe if I come over to the UK, they'll put me in some content or some Wrestle Talk. Like, haven't heard from you for a while, Wrestle Talk. Like, where you guys at? Because I'm blowing up right now.
I don't think they
I'm
do
blowing up.
Quizzlemania anymore. I think
No,
they
no,
stopped
no,
doing
no.
it, and like they're doing Survival Series now, also a great show.
Yes.
but
I didn't know that. I haven't seen Quizzlemania forever. I guess that's why.
well,
Yeah.
I think there's reasons.
guys, bro. I'll be out in the UK eventually. Put me on the show.
I think there's reasons that we won't go into why Quizzlemania
Yeah,
is not happening
I get
anymore.
you.
It's
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah,
But
Um,
Greg, I told you this is the one industry that the pandemic did not completely negatively alter, shut down, whatever. You had everything in person, locking up, going behind barriers, and just no, stay away from me. We can still talk here. We're good. Because I'd gone from not wanting to do content at all anymore to starting just an audio thing through, like, I think it was anchor.fm, if I remember right, or whatever it was.
Something like
And then
that,
people
remember
kept
that,
saying,
yeah.
we want to see your face. And it's like, okay, I'll go back on YouTube. And here I am 4.5, almost 5 years later. So the pandemic was horrible. And it was just a neat time in humanity around the world. But YouTube and other content creators like it, man, we have done nothing but benefit, at least in my eyes.
well, I think Quizzlemania was a big part of why I decided to start my own channel too. Like obviously the stuff with Jeff, but like seeing wrestling content creation grow led me to start this channel about 4 years ago. And a Quizzlemania like show is how the guy on the end there, Matty Laws, and I became close, and why he's a part of the show.
Quizzlemania is what got me and Greg close. Even though I've never been on Quizzlemania, I was very adamant to help Greg get on Quizzlemania.
Yes, it was the sheer pressure from everybody to get this man on Quizzlemania that brought the majority of us together, because everybody wanted to see that.
Yeah.
And it took 2 years, but it happened.
We got it, by God.
We did.
You're here, man. That's amazing.
Exactly. Matty, you haven't asked a question in a while. Go ahead.
So I guess going back to your wrestling training going into the match itself, how much of your amateur wrestling background is going into it, and how much are you trying to be creative with your moveset going in?
Oh, like 100% none of it. Like not at all. You will see no flips. This match will not be technical. If you're expecting some Ricochet Ospreay stuff, you will not get it. This is not the match. If you want to see Brock Lesnar and Goldberg between two big black guys, you're gonna see it. That's what you're getting out of this match. You're getting black Goldberg and black Brock Lesnar.
So we're getting the pounds.
We're gonna lift. We're gonna throw. It's gonna be great. Big dude bumping meat. It's a lot of big meat bumping. That's what
big meat bumping.
Yes.
Big meaty men slapping meat. So if you are a NorCal-based wrestling journalist, this is not the match for you at all. Wow.
No, this is like two big powerhouses just trying to figure out who's stronger. That's what you're gonna get out of this.
I'm pretty sure you've been asked this several times, but what is your favorite professional wrestling match?
Oh, it has to be Omos versus anyone. Yeah.
That's right. You
I got that on right now. So shout out Omos.
Homo sapien.
Yes. I forgot about the hardcore Homo sapien that you are, the number one Homo sapien.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about that. But yeah, that's.
I've been so locked in with AJ. There's no time to talk about Omos. But since we're talking about him, shout out Omos.
Yeah, you talk about a guy that just has that potential that refuses to be unlocked. It is frustrating as hell.
Yeah, man. Triple H is screwing up right now. He got television.
It's very rare that he misses the mark anymore, but man, he is with Omos. Oh,
I'll tell you what. Like I saw, it was video footage of Omos. I think at Walleye Mania last year, perhaps, maybe the year before, and like he just had this incredible personality, incredibly funny. It's like, show that on TV. Like, the tall 7-foot giants who are just dominant. That's a trope. Like, you can move past that. Like, he has this personality. Use it. Like, that could get him over further.
Yep.
Good, man.
No. Yeah, it wasn't Walleye Mania because it was here in LA. So I think it's the one event I didn't go to in the entirety of WrestleMania week because I'm so damn exhausted. But yeah, he was hysterical there. It was great to see.
He's a great guy, man. I don't know what's going on, bro. They gotta use him. They
gave him a great mouthpiece who wasn't completely, outlived his usefulness yet, an MVP, but it came off of a stupid story going against Lashley. It was like, no, he needs. Anyway, I'm getting all.
You hate to see it. Like, if Omos just beat Brock Lesnar, it'd just be a whole different conversation. But
seriously, their match was so good because it completely exceeded expectations. I went into that stadium on night 2 thinking, okay, I can go take a leak, and I'm like, this is good. Like they actually did some good shit in this ring.
That's what I was trying to say, bro. You hate to see it.
You do. It's rough.
In the same vein as Matty's question, your favorite match, what's your favorite women's match of all time?
Okay, there's a lot. Wait, I want to double back and follow up on favorite wrestling match. I kind of just like jokingly said Omos. So obviously I love Omos, and that's my number one guy. I will say my favorite wrestling match of all time is actually Cody versus Nick Aldis at All In. We'll come back to that. To tell you my favorite women's match, it has to be Caitlyn versus AJ Lee at Payback 2014. That was the first women's match that really opened up my mind to like watching more women's wrestling. Not because I didn't want to, because I just feel like at the time there wasn't a match quality that was really like piquing my interest. And again, that's more on WWE than this talent, because obviously there's many talented women that are on that roster currently at that time.
Yes,
2014. But that was the time they actually let them really wrestle. And I got to really experience like, women's wrestling is crazy good. I want to watch more of it. Then we get Sasha and Bayley, who did crazy good. That triple threat match at WrestleMania 32 went crazy good. Like, there's a lot of great women's wrestling, but that's the match that really kicked it off for me.
Caitlyn and AJ Lee, that match of Payback, I think was the true beginning of the women's revolution.
Thank you. Yes.
And I've said it before. I actually wrote a full-blown article about this match because of how good it was and how important it was to women's wrestling. It does not get talked about near enough, and it really should. People talk like Paige and Emma at for the first NXT Women's Championship. They talk about Charlotte and Natalya, but they need to go back a little bit more and look at AJ Lee and Caitlyn. That feud was good, and the match absolutely delivered. And it should be talked about way more.
1000% agree.
It is
Also, AJ's sell for that spear is insane.
right.
Right?
Absolutely criminal that AJ's run was cut short because of her space physically and mentally checking out, because I think if she'd have been brought in maybe a year or two before, it really could have been special. She still made a great impact. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, we're still talking about her now, and every time her husband appears on screen, it's like, okay, we're going to see her this time. So it's not that she didn't make a lasting impression, but it's like, man, she was just on the cusp of doing more. And it just, she being where she was and him, her husband being in the space he was, it was toxic. So God, it's another thing I think about all the time. It's like, man, she had a great run, but it was like a year and a half, maybe.
Exactly. The matches that we missed. Oh my God. Like AJ and Sasha, AJ and Becky, AJ Charlotte, AJ Bailey, AJ Alexa. You can go through the whole list. Bianca, Jade in there. Like there's so many people that like she put on bangers with right now.
AJ Liv would be an insane story.
Yeah. I mean, she really started women's evolution, in my opinion. Her and Caitlyn.
She's still so young that, like you said, man, if she'd have stayed healthy physically and was able to get herself in the place where she wanted to be there, man, it would be a whole different conversation about who's the greatest of all time. I really believe that. As much as a Trish fan as I am and a fan of the roster now, if she'd have stayed healthy and remained, it would be a completely different discussion.
Yeah, I hope she comes back. I mean, there's like women right now that she could still wrestle. I mean, like Roxanne, Cora, like there's so many that like would do crazy. Even like all the newer girls down in NXT that like don't have as much experience, like someone like a Jada Parker. Like, I mean, just put her in the ring with all those people and like she would make them like instant stars.
Absolutely.
And Jada Parker's another great example. I mean, the stuff that she's doing, she doesn't have a ton of experience, but she is owning every single second that she's on TV. Lola Vice is another one. Like, I think Lola is doing absolutely fantastic work in NXT. There's so many, like JC James down there. You have, there's just so many that I can't even list them all.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels is really doing his thing right now. Like, he's recruiting well. Like, I mean, like someone like Lola who has that history in Bellator, then coming over to WWE, like, is translating super well. Like Jada Parker, who played soccer at like LSU, I think, or some school like that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Like for her to come over now, she's doing great stuff. Like these women are so talented, even though they're not traditional professional wrestlers or whatever. Like, doing great.
This next in line stuff is actually like working out pretty good.
No, it is.
Yeah.
Right? People said it was gonna flop. It's not. It's not.
No.
Sol Ruka is impressing me.
Yes.
She impressed me at Battleground. I was like, when she did that move off of the rope, I was just like, and then she did it off the ladder. I was like, hold up.
She's money.
I was like, did I find my new number one wrestler? Is Britt moving down the line?
Right. And also, we got to put respect on the first ever NXT Women's North American Champion, Kalani Jordan. Respect on that name, too.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's been doing this less than 2 years.
On a night where TNA definitely started off getting the showcase on NXT, the women of NXT last night really delivered, like big. So good on them for that, man. They almost took it away from the Battle Royal and the World Title, but man, they impressed shit out of me last night too. As much as it was great to see my boy Frankie and everybody but Courtney believing in Joe Hendry, damn it was great to see the women show up and show out. They were awesome last night.
They did great.
Absolutely. All right, the show's about to be over. Malcolm, what else would you like to promote? You can promote your match against AJ a little bit more, but where can these good people that are watching the show find you?
Yeah, you can find me all over social media at Malcolm Muscle. You can find me on YouTube at Muscle Man Malcolm. I interview a lot of professional wrestlers. Got some great ones coming up soon. I interviewed Reginald from WWE. That comes out next week. He recently debuted for GCW, so that's going to be great. We got some other great interviews coming up very soon. And again, I'm wrestling AJ Francis, formerly known as Top Dollar, now known as a Big Bitch, on August 24th Brooklyn, New York, Battle Club Pro, Jobber Slam 4. Me and him, we're going to go at it. It's going to be the biggest powerhouse match you've ever seen, and I'm going to get my revenge for him slapping me in the face, and I will punch him square in the mouth, and it's going to be great.
There you go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Greg Cherry Show tonight. We obviously thank Muscle Man Malcolm for joining us on the show. We thank Big Baller G for joining us, Matty and Jeff, as always. Stay tuned next week. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Greg Cherry Show next week. And, of course, next Thursday, the big Jack of All Trades episode, Maven is going to be joining us. Looking forward to a massive week in our media sphere. So thank you very much for joining us. Have a great night. Don't be a jag. And we'll see you next week on the Greg Cherry Show. Have a good night.
And don't be a jag, and don't be a bitch like AJ.
Exactly.
Yeah.